everybody. You're listening to Chatting with Candace. I'm your host, Candace Horback. Before we get started on this week's episode, if you want to support the podcast, you can go to chattingwithcandace.com and sign up for our Patreon account. You get early access to episodes, bonus content, live AMAs, and shout-outs on our podcast. Speaking of shout-outs, this week's shout-out is going to be to Andrew Brodell. Thank you for being a Patreon, supporting the podcast. It means a ton to me, and to all of you that sign up, it helps me to continue podcasting. Last bit of housekeeping, hydration. It's super important. You know you should be drinking more water. I know I should be drinking more water. I just don't have the time. So Liquid IV has my back. With special technology that I am not smart enough to understand, it hydrates you 3 times more effectively and 3 times faster. Their flavors are really great. They have a defense powder that's really good for going into cold and flu season. They have a nighttime powder that honestly is amazing. I take it before bed and I'm just out. It just gives me very restful sleep. So if you go to liquid-iv.com and use code Candace, you can save 25%. Again, that's liquid-iv.com and code Candace to save 25%. All right, that was a lot. This week we have Renat Gabitov joining the podcast, as well as my husband, Eric. I love bringing Eric on because I love getting like a male's perspective, as well as like someone who's a bit of an entrepreneur. I think it adds a lot of value to the conversation. Renat is a serial entrepreneur, a nomad, the founder of Lifestyle Engineering, just a really cool guy. We had an awesome conversation. I hope you learn a lot and have a lot of fun. Enjoy. Thank you for joining the podcast today, Renat. If you want to, well, I should also do this because I never do this. We also have my husband, Eric, joining. So the other mysterious voice is the husband.
Hey, folks.
So you are the founder of Lifestyle Engineering. I guess, you don't want me to start there, but we're going to start there, I guess. What is Lifestyle Engineering to you? What does that mean?
Absolutely. So Lifestyle Engineering is my little community together, and my ambition was, when I was growing up, to find people who are just like me, who are adventurous, who are open-minded, and who ask themselves the question, okay, what is possible? And when I was growing up personally, I had this question when reading biographies. I asked, hey, if that person can do it, can I also do it? And I thought I could. And with that, it's kind of a blessing and a curse, because it's a curse because you got to put yourself in the where you have to go and pursue kind of the most challenging things that are out there in the world. And the blessing is it's freaking exciting. It's pretty awesome. So, and Candace, you were on my podcast as well, Lifestyle Engineering, and what the podcast is about, essentially, I'm writing a book right now, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to decode how people find fulfillment and meaning in their lives. And the idea is to interview people from all walks of life, from Navy SEALs to entrepreneurs and other folks, and try to understand what they have in common and how they find that thing that they're passionate about.
Mm-hmm. Just a small task that you're trying to accomplish. Nothing huge. So basically, it sounds like living life on purpose to me, which I think is really important. And then like consciously crafting your life instead of just like, I guess, drifting through it or not participating in your life. Would you say that's accurate?
Exactly. You know, Candace, it's very interesting how I believe that the personal development industry got it wrong. They tell us to look for all of the answers inside. We were taught that, hey, if I meditate enough on what I want out of life, then all of a sudden, all of the answers are going to come to me, and I'm going to have this perfect plan for what I want my life to be. Mm-hmm. And my book thesis is actually approaching the same question backwards. It says, hey, what if we do not know what we love? What if we do not know what we're passionate about? And then the idea is, okay, if you do not know, if that is the starting point, then how can we become more self-aware? How can we find those like passions, interests, and ways of living that will make us the happiest that we can be? And the answer that I found is through experimentation. So you put yourself in new environments, you do things that you believe that are going to make you more joyful, more excited. Essentially, you create a hypothesis for what you believe is going to bring you the want. Then you do a test, and boom, you either prove the hypothesis right or you prove it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool. If you don't mind, let's rewind the tapes a little bit. And I want to find out where this all started for you. Like, where did this journey start? How did you even come up with this? And then what kind of trial and error did you have to go through in order to come up with the recipe that you came up with to design a life?
Absolutely. I guess so. First of all, for the background, I was born in a nomadic family. So my parents, they did have a base in Russia, in Moscow, but they were their formative years were spent when the Soviet Union collapsed. And before Soviet Union, you cannot get information all that easily. Yeah, you only can consume information that's on TV. You cannot go outside of the country. There is very little diversity of thought that you get to experience. And the Soviet Union collapses, and then they say, okay, what if we go and experience the world? And then they had me and my sister, which didn't stop them. They pretty much took me and my sister everywhere. And by now I've been to close to 70 countries. I'm not sure if it's over or under. I don't care anymore. And yeah, that's probably me really excited about trying new things and stepping into other people's perspectives and other ways of doing things. I think that's kind of the onset of the journey.
Did I hear you say nomadic family? Can you unpack that for us a little bit? Like, what is a nomadic family?
A nomadic well, I guess nomadic family would be the one that doesn't have a home base. In my case, they were nomadic-ish, I guess. We had a home base in Moscow, but my parents, they just wanted to go places. And maybe every month or every couple months, they would just buy a ticket randomly. Sometimes it was to Thailand. Sometimes I ended up in Africa. In Africa, going on this jeep next to the lions and really seeing how people live in the tribes, how they live in the houses made out of poop. It was really cool. I only got to appreciate it now because I do remember there was this moment somewhere in the United Kingdom. I was in the back seat and I was so annoyed. I was just like, fuck, we're going to this next location to see the next thing. And it's like, can I just sit at home and do my thing and watch movies, play video games or whatever? I was so tired of going to all those places.
That's incredible. So where did you guys stay? So you had a family of 4 and you would be, like you said, visiting tribes. Would you be staying with the tribes?
In that particular example, we did like an experience with them, and it's actually not very difficult to do if you're not doing it the touristy way. My dad, he doesn't like doing touristy stuff. So he rents a car usually in every country, and we end up just driving and stopping anywhere that we please. And it comes also with the downside. And the downside is you roll in at 1 a.m. in a tiny ass city, somewhere in like Croatia, before smartphones. You do not know where the hotels are or how to find them. So you literally bang on the doors and ask, hey, is there a hotel? And I do remember us having, once in Italy, actually, we couldn't find hotels. It was like in Rome, and the only hotels that were open, they were like super expensive. They were like $300-$400, and we ended up staying in the car. That was like the only experience I remember. I slept in the trunk of the car, but it was super fun. As a kid, you just want to do kind of cool things, and everything that's unusual, it's an experience. So we wake up in that car. My parents let me out, and when we realized it was dark when we parked the car, we realized that we parked in the what is it called? Where they're dumping cars for metal and they're like breaking them. We parked our car next to that spot.
No way! That's incredible. So what a belief system! Like right from the get-go, it's like uncertainty is no big deal. we're just going to go do something. We don't even know where we're going to stay. We're just going to bang on some doors. If we have to, we'll just stay in this rent-a-car.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't function like that. I'm someone that thrives off of like predictability. Like I just planning. I love planning. It's what gets me like really excited. I would be
I'm the
nervous
same way.
wreck. You're probably this way because it was so chaotic in the beginning, but what an adventure.
Yeah, I think so. For me right now, I'm exactly the same way. I love clarity. I like setting goals. I have a 40-page document. It's like a life manifesto where I say what I want out of life in different categories of life. So I'm trying to be extremely strategic. And in lifestyle engineering, what we do is we look at different data and ways to quantify what we want when running the experiments, right? And one thing I would say, I do not think that taking risks is necessarily risky, or leaning into uncertainty is a risky thing, because if you've done it enough, if you've gone on this, say, road trips where you'll not know where to stay, if you figure it out 10 times out of 10, then you know that, hey, it's actually like, what's the worst thing that can happen? Okay, the worst thing is I sleep in the car. Big deal. Mm-hmm. So, and that reduces risk massively, like the risk in terms of how you fear. I would say fear is a better word. Mm-hmm. Fear of uncertainty. So mm-hmm. you can have uncertainty, but it's not scary anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and risk is one of those things that there's like a spectrum of it. So there's like risk tolerance, and everybody has a different tolerance for it, which means that it's just up here, right? And once you can identify that it's just up here, then you can be like, okay, you can gauge whichever way you want it to be, and you can kind of like design it your own way.
And it's like anything else too, right? Like if you have the more exposure you have to something, like the less you react to it over time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Man, absolutely. It's also something that is subjective, right? Because one person fears spiders, the other person doesn't care, mm-hmm. Right? And yeah, I guess it depends what what is risk. How do we define it? Because once we define the risk, then we get to evaluate it, and everybody is going to have a different way to evaluate risk based on their specific circumstances and belief systems.
So how do we get started on like, what's the beginning steps for lifestyle engineering? And so her and I have been talking. 2020 completely, fucked everyone up.
Everyone's plans are gone.
Everyone's plans is gone shit. You can goal set all you want, and 2020 put a big wrench in it. I guarantee it. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a really incredible opportunity for people to just kind of start over. Let's like go back to first principles and find out exactly what it is we want and exactly what it is makes sense for us. So that's something we've been talking about a lot, is like, okay, let's just start here. Where's the next 10 years going to take us? Mm-hmm. And then what are the steps? How do we reverse engineer the next, where we want 10 years to be? How do we reverse engineer it and then execute on exactly what it is to get there?
But so then 2020 happens.
Yeah, exactly. So, but again, start over, right? Let's figure out what the next 10 years is going to be. So from your company, the lifestyle engineering company, like what are the steps we should take or someone should take to get started?
Absolutely. So just for a little bit of context as well, lifestyle engineering is my passion project, and this is something that gives me fulfillment. I'm an entrepreneur myself. I ran an online education company previously that I exited from, and I'm on to the next adventure. I'm also into startups like you. And so lifestyle engineering is something that I just feel incredible about, because I have the people who are part of the community, and I have an excuse to have something that I can come back to and say, hey, this is something I love. And essentially lifestyle engineering is one of those things that I could leverage to pursue my curiosity. And I know Candace talks about pursuing curiosity a lot. Mm-hmm. For me, I get to interview really interesting humans and say, hey, this is like, I'm trying to decode, human, experience, fulfillment, purpose, all of those things. And then it goes under, I guess, under that theme. So that just for context, because I think it's important to know that I'm not just, teaching things or preaching people how to experiment with life and what to do and writing books. I'm also being like a professional, developing in many facets. So to come back to the big question, okay, so right now there's a little bit more uncertainty. How do we run experiments, right? So my take on experiments is, if we do not know the starting point, or if we are not certain what we want from life, first of all, creating some constraints is very important. So I try to pick a category. Let's say we pick a category, relationships, right? And there I'm trying to understand, how do I want to feel if my relationships are solid, if everything is going super well. So if I know, okay, I want to feel, do you guys have an answer? I know relationships is a big theme that I guess you might be passionate about.
How do you want to feel if a relationship is going well?
Yeah. I separate like life in like 9 different categories, and one of them can be really romantic relationships.
Right.
How do you guys feel when relationships are dialed, when you're like the happiest you can be in relationships?
Connected.
I think connection is huge. I think having a sense of like interdependence instead of being codependent, I think that's like a fundamental part of having a healthy relationship. So you both have fulfilled lives separately, but also a fulfilled life together. So I think if some person maybe like is maybe struggling or doesn't have a sense of purpose, and that's going to negatively affect the relationship. But it's when you both have something that you're excited about separately, and then you're both excited for your life together.
Right. You feel accepted, belonging, like all these things. Yeah.
Accepted, belonging, love that. Having independence as well, and codependence. And so we identified a few awesome words. Can you tell me a few examples of you feeling those feelings? Like when do you feel those things?
I would say when shit hits the fan and you feel incredibly supported by the people that you're in a relationship with.
Any specific particular example from life that comes to mind? You don't have to share. You can.
Oh, shit.
Let's get personal.
We've got 100 of them. Shit hits the fan a lot.
So for me, the first thing that comes to mind, like our son had like a really traumatic birth, and something that could have been like the worst situation of my life. Like we got so insanely close, and like we're very like supportive of each other. And when one person like needed to cry, the other one was like, you know, a sign or was like a pillar of like fortitude, and vice versa. So like we were really good at just like knowing what the other person needed, I think. So
like really in flow.
Yeah.
In sync, like,
without having to even talk, because there wasn't a lot of talking. We were just kind of just trying to like power through it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that
so
make sense?
those are, yeah, absolutely. And those are fantastic. Those are fantastic examples, and appreciate you guys sharing. So the way I create experiments is I look at evidence from my life that made me think that, hey, I actually do want belonging. You know, I do want, I do want to feel like there is somebody who is going to be there for me during the most difficult times in my life, right? And from there you can say, okay, how can I distill it further, or how can I prove those things? Maybe you guys could do a Tough Mudder race together, hypothetically, just just putting it out, whatever you guys like. And so we can take some of those experiences, and we can engineer proactively life that has those components in it, right? You could do more things that strengthen your relationship, and that's what lifestyle engineering in many ways is about. A lot of folks, they say, hey, I want X, Y, and Z. I want to be an actress. I want to be a singer. They never do it. They've never tried it. And that's the problem that I have. Like, how do you know if those are the things that you want? If you want to be an actress, if you've never been in the industry, if you've never been on set, if you have no idea. Hate it. Yeah, you may hate exactly. So just creating those hypotheses. And then what I personally like doing is I like running experiments that are 30 days long, or sometimes a month and a half long. And there are a few that I'd be happy to share with you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So right now, the most recent experiment is a phone-free week. So it's day 6. I'm living without the phone. It's amazing. and what I'm testing, and which is very important, what's the objective of the experiment? I'm testing, am I going to be happier and more present without the phone? The answer so far is hell yes. You know what? So I'm going to buy an old phone from the Matrix. You know, the one with like the green screen and like the big buttons, and that's what I'm going to have. I'm like going forward because that's the experiment I wanted to do. I'm going to still have a smartphone, but I'm going to leave it at home. And then if people want to get in touch with me, I'll have the old ass Matrix phone.
There's a new company. I can't think of the name, but it was just Joe Rogan just talked about it. And it's a new phone that all it has is phone calls, text messaging, and podcasts. Like you cannot add anything else to it. Yes. And that's where he said they went wrong. He's like, you should have just had phone calls and texting. Yeah. But I think it's really important to kind of disconnect a little bit. I know I, for one, am like on my phone way too much, and I already know my answer would be yes, I'm happier if I went a week without my phone. I also saw that you announced that you were like off of social media and you like were unfollowing everyone. I was like, what is he up to?
You'll be surprised by how many people took it personally. So that's another experiment. That's another experiment that I wanted to do. I wanted to see. Well, I kind of knew that I'm less happy when I check social media. Mm-hmm. That was something I was certain about. Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan of the binary approach to life. It's like either I do something all in or I do not do it at all. And with social media, I keep coming back to it. I keep getting distracted. To be very honest, I've been using my social media to talk to girls for the most part, and and most of my meaningful friendships they happen on WhatsApp, anyways. So what I want to do is I wanted to go kind of cold turkey on Instagram, and the way to do it is to unfollow everybody, and most of the people that I've met, I might not be able to, to find once again. But with that being said, yeah, you're giving something away. And yes, social media has its benefits, and it's very easy to have those little benefits saying, but what about, that little thing and you connecting with like this unique person or whatever? Everything in life is a trade-off. And in the case of social media, the downside is so massive. Mm-hmm. So massive for me, mainly with mental health. Mm-hmm. Mainly with mental health. Right now, we're going through a massive pandemic. For context, I was trapped in my apartment for 5 months in Argentina. They had a lockdown for 5 months. The restaurants were closed. Everything was closed. You could just go to the grocery store and, you could do takeout. But I was also in a country where I did not speak the language, where I did not have a friend circle. And that messed with me. That was with me mentally, and I started taking my mental health a lot more seriously. And this is something I'm very passionate about, and I love to see what we can do in order to mitigate for the challenges that are going to happen. I really believe that because of this year, I think, and the entire generation is going to get a little screwed from that perspective, even beyond social media and phones.
No, I think so too. I think people are going to have a lot of like social anxiety that maybe they never had before, just from lack of communication with people. I think people are going to be more depressed because they feel more disconnected. I think there's a lot of fear that's going to be even subconsciously instilled in people. So like now maybe they're going to be more negative about like their health maybe, and they might not necessarily need to. So what are some steps that you would say for someone that's like feeling these mental effects of like the pandemic in general?
To be very frank, I'm not the person to ask, and mm-hmm. I try to speak about things that I'm an expert at. I still have challenges with feeling sad from time to time, and mm-hmm. I'm very open about those things. I think it's a very human thing to do, mm-hmm. and in fact, I believe that when we share, then we get to be more connected with people, mm-hmm. because they say, oh, I feel the same way. It's like, mm-hmm. Here's what I try, or if you ever want to give me a call, or let's go do something fun. It's really helpful. So accepting emotions is something that worked really well for me. Mm-hmm. Specifically, and this is something pretty new. When I feel sad, I'm just like, fuck, I don't want to feel sad. It kind of sucks to feel sad, but that's rejecting an emotion. And mm-hmm. there are multiple ways to reject an emotion. One of the common ways I resort to is to put a wall and be indifferent, be in the gray area. And that sucks, because what I learned from a friend of mine, and that turned out to be really true for me, you cannot selectively turn off one emotion. If you're turning off emotions, you're turning off all of them. That's happiness, excitement, thrill. It's all of the good things as well. So what I started doing is I started kind of leaning in and saying, hey, yeah, I feel sad. It kind of, it sucks, but that's what it is. What makes me feel sad, or like, why is that the case? And here's the thing. So once I accept something, like an emotion of sadness, and then I look at my environment, then I look at my thoughts, then I look at the things that, like, kind of the inputs that get processed by my body, and there's an output, sadness or whatever. So for me, I realized that I didn't hug a person for 3 months in Argentina. I was like, that's messed up. That's not cool. And what I did, I bought a ticket for, to go here to Istanbul in Turkey. And I knew the environments that make me feel happy. And I just put myself in this new environment, and things have been pretty awesome over here so far.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it's so easy. It doesn't have to be that hard. I know a lot of men, especially that I've talked to, will overanalyze the hell out of their own feelings. But sadness in general, like, you probably don't have to overanalyze it, or frustration or anger. Like, everyone around you is arguing right now, like in the States anyway. And I know in a lot of places in the world, like, everyone's on Twitter yelling at each other. That's frustrating.
Yeah.
Of course you're going to feel frustrated. Right? Someone might say something that sparks something inside of you, something that connects, that makes you angry. Of course you're going to be angry, right? It's what we decide to do with those emotions is the important part. Are you going to act on them? Are you going to act negatively towards somebody else because of those emotions, rather than just accept them and feel them and be like, okay, this is an interesting emotion?
Yeah, I love what you mentioned just now. I believe that emotions are a guiding force for us to make better decisions. So if we're checking Twitter, and then it makes us feel angry, if it's unproductive anger, and by unproductive I mean nothing happens other than you feeling angry, then you should probably not check Twitter. It's as simple as it gets. But if you feel angry because something messed up is happening in the world, go ahead and do something about it. Because the way people find things that they're passionate about, because anger is also a statement of passion, right? You might have values that are different from the other person, and you want the world to be more consistent with your values. Or you're angry because the fires are burning in California, or because minorities do not have a voice, whatever. Go do something about it. Like, if you feel anger, it's all right. It's a force that tells you, hey, you might be passionate about it. I think it's better to feel anger than to feel indifference and to feel nothing about what's happening.
Yeah, Totally. I agree. And I love that you said, more or less, you said, like, screening your inputs. Once you realize that something is making you feel this way, if it's unproductive, then remove that input, right? Try to find and replace it with something more powerful, like social media. If something's making you angry, if you're following a particular page or something like that, and everything they post is like really making you angry, but it's coming from an unproductive place, then just follow something more powerful. Follow something more interesting. Follow some other curiosity and replace it with that, right?
Exactly.
So I've had a lot of men tell me that it's very hard for them to even like pinpoint what they're feeling. Like, it's hard for them to identify emotions. I think a lot of that is just like how we've raised boys in the past. So can you give some tips to listeners how you are so able to like pinpoint what you're feeling? Because like both of you obviously seem to be pretty self-aware when it comes to like, I'm feeling this, so I'm going to do this about it. So a lot of people aren't there yet. So how do you like first, I guess, know what emotion is being expressed?
I'll leave that to you.
You're still working on yours?
Yeah. It was not that long ago. She used to say I had the emotional span of a teaspoon.
Getting context on men's experience of life, of like what we feel is very important. When I was living in Bali, and I'll tell you, me living around the world as well. And so when I was living in Bali, I spent there 7 months. I started going to men groups there's like men's circles, and essentially in those groups, you have an environment to authentically share whatever is happening in your life. If you're feeling insecure, you say it. If you have problems in relationships, and if somebody made you feel a certain way, you say it. And there were a number of really beautiful things that happened from me attending. Number one was an incredible level of belonging to fellow men. I was like, fuck, these guys are just like me. They experience same things like I do. They too feel rejected. They too feel insecure from time to time. They too feel, excited, whatever it is. And I realized, hey, like this is really cool. And I started looking at men differently as well. Instead of looking at them as at adversaries, I started looking at them, hey, there are other guys just like me going through the same experiences, and like I want them to feel good. I want them to be successful in all endeavors. I want them to get laid. I want them to be, to make money. So context was really important. It's the reason I like reading biographies as well. Just knowing how people think, what people go through, massively powerful. I'm not sure if it's a good enough answer, but this was one of the things that helped me tremendously in just understanding what I'm going through and building up my self-awareness, because people also give you input. It's like, hey, I've had that as well, and you might want to think about it from this different angle. So having an external output on what you're feeling, because what we feel a lot of the times is something that we feel, we do not know how to think about it. Having another person that is unbiased to look at my life and say, hey, those are bullshit stories that you're telling yourself. You should stop doing this. And like, you cannot heal yourself that way. Yeah, in my experience. So yeah, having a perspective and having an external input on what you're going through, those are things that help me.
I think that's super helpful. So when you're traveling all over the world, are you doing this like mostly by yourself, or do you have like a buddy that's going with you?
I usually travel by myself. Most of the time I travel by myself. I'm trying to change my approach a little bit, because I realized again that I'm a lot happier when I go to see people that I'm already in deep relationships with. So I know a lot of people just because I'm a very extroverted person. I invest into building new relationships. I also have certain skills that allow me to connect with females and just people in general. And having a lot of relationships doesn't make me happier. Having deeper relationships is what makes me a lot happier. And what I try to do right now is, I'm going to go to a place where I know I'm going to be surrounded by people who love me, who appreciate me, and who I appreciate, and who we can go deep and do cool things. So here in Turkey, I just moved to Turkey. This is one of the only places I can go to as a holder of a Russian passport during a pandemic. Kind of sucks, but so I rented this beautiful place, very central, and I have a guest bedroom by design, and about probably over 10 people in the last. So I've been here for maybe 4 or 5 weeks. Around 10, 12 people have gone through my apartment. Just two folks just flew out, they just left from my apartment. They're just entrepreneurs, from Ukraine. I had folks from America coming, from just all over the world. And this has become a spot where people can come and stay for free, just enjoy it, have great conversations, be productive at. So this is one of the things that I've done in terms of people.
That's travel. So neat. So when you're traveling by yourself and you're finding like these men's groups, like how do you go about discovering them?
To be frank, I did not proactively do this. This was when I was living in Bali. This is something that happened. This is something that happened just somebody told me how powerful it was, I was super skeptical. I was so skeptical. I was like, no freaking way am I going to attend one of those. It sounds like crystal wearing hippies are going to, teach me to be more mindful. Fuck that. And then I came and it's like, it was at a CrossFit gym. It was like no bullshit. It was super honest, and one of the rules that we have, no coaching. No coaching. You can only share your experience. And that was just an amazing thing, because nobody gave you advice.
Mm-hmm.
They were just there.
Yeah. So I'm in an entrepreneur group like that, but it takes, and it's almost every time I go, now I'm better at it because I've been doing it for over a year, but it was almost before that. It was every time I go, I always could find a reason not to do it or not to go, and have to like find out like, okay, what is it? Why am I sabotaging myself? Because I know that it's important to have these groups, to have like-minded human beings that you can talk to, you can like communicate your emotions and communicate these things, because otherwise they bottle up and they turn into something negative, right? Or you can like act out on them if you don't actually like share, like you said earlier.
Is that an entrepreneurship group?
Yeah, it's called the EO.
Mm-hmm. Entrepreneurs Organization. Yeah. I'm very familiar.
Yeah, it's not a men's group, but I've never done any men's group stuff. I have one coming up that's pretty similar to a men's group, but I haven't actually done the men's group stuff. But I'll speak for a lot of the men I know in entrepreneurial, like even people that don't go to these types of groups, people not in the EO. I think that their natural reaction to them is like, it's a waste of time. Like this is the thought loop that's going on inside their head. It's time. I don't need that. Like, what's it going to do for me? You know what I mean? And there's like all these questions as to like, what the fuck's the point? Like, why am I going to go to a men's group and share my feelings with a bunch of dudes? And the thing is, so the reason why I had gone to similar stuff in the past is because I was like, well, I can't think of a good reason why not to. And if I'm measuring my life on the experiences that I have, then this is some sort of avoidance that I'm experiencing right now. So why don't I just try it, regardless of the negative feelings I have towards that or the judgment that I have, right? Because judgment's there for a reason. And why not just jump in and try it and see what happens? And then that, all of a sudden you find out like, whoa, that felt kind of good. Like being with a group of people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's nice, that think like me.
Totally. I think there are a number of things that might be happening with entrepreneur groups. I've been to a large number of entrepreneur groups as well. EO in particular, as far as I know, is a broad. It's a big group of people. So you have a chapter, right?
There's 14,000 members. There's chapters in different cities all over the world.
Yeah, the depth of relationships is very important.
Yeah,
and it's close to impossible to connect with when you have like hundreds upon hundreds of people. That's I guess one thing. Second thing would be clarity, like clarity as for like, why do you want to do this? For me, going to men's groups is I want to do this because I feel better when there is an outlet to express myself and express things that I cannot express outside of that confined environment. I cannot just walk on the street, meet up a random person who's not going to judge me, who is going to listen to me, for a certain period of time. And so that I think that is also getting clarity as for like why you want to do things. A lot of entrepreneurship groups that I've been a part of, it's like if there is nothing in particular I want out of them, then I'm not going to be excited. I'm not going to participate, because entrepreneurship is very broad. Like if there is a group of people who want to go from 1 million to 10 million, they run a company that focuses on whatever, or like in this industry. And it's like, cool, I'll talk to them. This is exactly what I want to accomplish. I know exactly why I want to accomplish those things. So getting to clarity, I think if people are not certain, then I would try to get the clarity, and I'll try to also write down the excuses and see if the excuses are valid, why am I have those excuses? Like, is this a defense mechanism, or is this a good point?
Right. Yeah. How long have you've been an entrepreneur your whole life? Have you had a real job ever?
I freelanced a little bit, but mainly I've been entrepreneurial. Yeah, the majority of my life. And to be very honest, kind of going away from being an entrepreneur is really really difficult. For example, yesterday I was just hanging out with a few friends. They run this artificial intelligence startup, like really cool, and I could really contribute to their business. And they said, "Hey, Renat, we want you to come on board, want you to help us." And I know that I can create a lot of value for them. But this idea of having something that I cannot steer, like I don't have full control over it. So my previous business, the reason I left my previous business, that was around 4 months ago, everything was going stellar. We reached all of our goals. I had an amazing team of people who literally told me, "We're not working at this company and doing this work has changed my life. Thank you so much." I got all of the good things that I kind of wrote on paper, and I realized that having the best case scenario in that company wasn't fulfilling enough, or didn't feel good enough. So if the best case scenario doesn't work out for you, then there is no point of doing it. So I left my partnership, and right now I'm looking for my next adventure. And I left it not because I didn't have ideas of where to take that specific business. I didn't feel like I had enough power to steer the ship where I wanted to go and to move quick enough. So that's why I've been entrepreneurial kind of throughout my life. I like having this freedom. I like having this kind of a little bit of control as well of like what I get to create.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are. Well, we all had to work from home for a while, right? Like, how many, 6 months? And now it's becoming like a super normal thing to work from home. So I think a lot of people that thing might be clicking, like, wait, like what else can I do? Like, I think you called yourself on one of your blogs or something like a digital nomad, right? And I think a lot of people are starting to feel like digital nomads because they're like, shit, I can do this job. I can freelance. I can do exactly what I do with the freedom of being at home and being with my family and actually feeling the fulfillment of being with my family. But starting, it's very different to be a freelancer and to earn your own money. It's very different to do that as it is to like start a company as an entrepreneur and start something from scratch, or just invent an idea or invent something that might benefit X amount of people. Like, that's two very different things. And I think a lot of people want to figure out how to bridge that gap between like working for a company from home, which is what they're doing, to starting something fresh that they can call their own and actually like lifestyle engineer their career. Right. So it sounds like you've kind of bridged that gap already several times. And it's kind of like the way you do things. Do you have any, like, I guess, what does it take to go from one to the other? And, when it comes to deciding like, this is something I'm passionate about and it's worth it, I'm going to put all the energy into it. Like, how do you know?
Yeah, and I guess my answer would come back to the idea of experimentation. Again, let's try it out. Let's freelance. Let's not commit to one particular business. Let's try working at different ones as a freelancer. Or I don't think everybody should be entrepreneurs, because that's not necessarily what brings them happiness and fulfillment. A lot of people, they want stability, safety, and they want depth. And for me, the challenge of my personality is I like experimentation. I get excited really quickly about things. I sprint, but then I get bored. And in order to build businesses, you need to give them a few years and see how they go. You need to find solutions to the roadblocks that come in. And when you get distracted, it's really tough to do. So I don't think everybody should be an entrepreneur. I think it could be really interesting for somebody to try something out, try out the business and see if you like it, or try freelancing. For myself, what I've found, and I found it through also experimentation and trying a lot of different professional routes, I realized that I like the depth that I get to experience professionally. For example, I started a company in 2018. We had like nothing. It was just me and my business partners. And then we got 1 employee, then we got 5, then we got 10, then we got 15. And I realized, hey, like I'm really passionate about seeing a project through and developing people, developing employees. Leadership development is something I absolutely loved. I did a lot of exercises on helping people outline what they want from life and what they want professionally, how they want to grow, giving them projects based on the directions they want to grow into, based on things that they want to learn. And that was one of the things I realized through actually committing to projects for a longer period of time. That leadership development is something I love, and I cannot practice that skill. I cannot practice developing employees, building all-star teams, increasing their performance if I'm just bouncing from one thing to another. So my next project, I want to be for 5-10 years.
Yeah. So I guess to bridge that gap, it's really just, just get fucking started. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Action is the cure for everything.
And then just experiment. So get started and experiment. Now, just do it, just get started. Richard Branson's like famous for that, right? He wrote a book. What was it called?
Screw it, let's do it.
Yeah. And you made your way. How the hell you made your way to Necker Island?
He's so jealous. He wants to know exactly.
Kitesurfing with Richard Branson, right? Can you tell us how the hell did that happen?
The Richard Branson story. I told it too many times, and I'm very happy to share it again. And Richard Branson is one of those people that are like, man, you've lived such an interesting life. Mm-hmm. He probably lived the most interesting life out of everybody that I've heard of. And I was really excited to meet him. So big picture, I was writing down my bucket list. I wanted to do things before that I have to do before I die, but way earlier. I didn't want to postpone anything. I didn't want to wait until I'm like 50 years old because I cannot skydive with the crutches, right? So I wanted to do most of the things I know by the age of 40. And I was 19 years old. I was writing down all of the things that I wanted to do, I wanted to experience. And during the time I was reading Richard Branson's biography, Losing My Virginity. And I really loved his biography. I really love what he's done. I really love how he thinks, how he acts. He was a big kind of role model for me. And one of the things I wrote, one of the first 5 things, I probably have that piece of paper still somewhere in my backpack, where I wrote bucket list. So I wrote down, I want to kite surf with Richard Branson on Necker Island. And I just put it away. And then at one point I was like, okay, let's see what I can cross off. Let's see what are the things that I can kind of develop and see, and see what happens. So I obviously remember that kite surfing with Richard Branson on Necker Island story was very specific. And I was 19 years old. I was pretty naive. And at the same time, I had this fire in my eyes. I was like, I don't care what has to happen. I'm just going to make it happen. Somebody has done it. I'll do it. And so, in about maybe a year from the moment when I wrote that bucket list item down, I had a virtual assistant. I've read the 4-Hour Workweek about leveraging virtual assistants and all that. So I hired a virtual assistant, and I asked her to give me a list of all places where Richard Branson is going to be in, when was it? 2016, I think. And she did that. She gave me a spreadsheet with all the places. There were like a bunch of places where he's speaking and everything. So I went one by one to every event, and there was one event that I saw. And that event was a private event. It shouldn't be listed anywhere. And it's for the Extreme Tech Challenge. It's for kitesurfing entrepreneurs. And I'm a massive kite surfer. I'm just like, holy shit, this is amazing. This cannot be real. And this was the finals of this Extreme Tech Challenge. So tens of thousands of companies startups apply to the challenge, and then at the end of the day, you get 3 startups to pitch on Necker Island to Richard Branson and to a bunch of other venture capitalists. So when I looked at the event page, I started thinking about the kind of the angles as I'm going through it, kind of as a marketer. I was like, okay, how can I contribute? So I thought about cold reaching out, but then I keep scrolling through the page, and I see one person that I knew that was actually going to be on the judge panel. So there are like 3 or 4 judges, and one of them is the venture capitalist Tim Draper. Maybe you happen to know him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I went to Tim Draper's acceleration program just before, maybe 7 months prior to that. And I got to be in a pretty good relationship with him. I flipped his canoe and his farm, and got him all like wet and muddy with his other friend. And we're just having a really good time. So Tim is just such an adventurous person as well. So I realized that, okay, he's going to be a judge. This is a private event, 100 people. I got to hit him up and I got to see if I can come. But hitting that person up and saying, hey, can I go to meet Richard Branson, is not something that I've seen works. And I thought about, how can I make it an offer he cannot refuse? How can it be the most interesting thing for him? How can I deliver value for him? So I thought, okay, what if I go on the island and get to represent his acceleration program, and bring my energy, kind of tell people about the cool projects that I've been working on as well. So I hit up Tim Draper, and I say, hey, I would love to come represent you in the program. This can be a fantastic opportunity for you. And then I also dropped a couple of things that I did to kind of contribute to the program before. Not necessarily to make them feel like, okay, now I have to return the favor. It was more like, hey, I'm a good kind of person. I want to contribute. That was kind of the intention. So he replies maybe same day or the day after, CC's the organizer of the event, and he's like, hey guys, I'm not sure if I can come, but Renat should definitely come instead of me. I was like, holy shit, this is impossible. So this like billionaire venture capitalist, just referred me to go instead of him, and he's like a panelist or a judge at the event. So they hooked me up with the ticket. I had to. There's another story about how I got money to go to the thing, because it's pretty expensive. Just flights and plus the ticket itself to go. So yeah, that's how I ended up there. But I think that what's more interesting is how I got to actually kite surf, on Necker Island. So I fly out to Virgin Islands, all excited again. How old was I? It's like probably 20 years old. Yeah, I was probably 20 years old at the time. I was thinking, okay, it's going to be awesome. I was working on an artificial intelligence startup, which I didn't know anything about artificial intelligence. It was complete bullshit. It's just the Kool-Aid I was drinking from the Silicon Valley and from the person I was working with. Yeah, but it's cool. Sometimes that naivete is awesome, because you get to do things that nobody else gets to do. So before the event day on Necker, they send an email out. And they say, okay, if you're one of the finalists, or if you have like the VIP ticket, and they're like, again, it's a very small event. It's like 100 people, right? And all of them are, handpicked. If you have the VIP ticket, show up at this spot, at this time. If you have a regular ticket, which is the one I had, you should show up at this place at this time. And they send one email to everybody. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. So I just showed up. at the location for the VIPs, and I was just broing up with everybody. I was, just talking kite surfing, talking life, talking startups. There's this massive conversation, and the person, one of the organizers, she also recognized me. She's like, "Hey, Renat, welcome." I was feeling just on fire. I was feeling amazing. Then we go to the great house, which is the big house on the top, and that person comes to me and she's like, "Hey, Renat, you know what? I realized that you actually do not have the right type of ticket." And I do not belong. I'm like a 20-year-old kid, without the multi-million-dollar startup like everybody else. I just hustled my way in. I was like, fuck, they're going to kick me out. It's not going to be fun. So I was thinking about the angle once again. Okay, what can I do? What can I do? And I thought, how about this? Oh, she said that the woman said, "Hey, Renat, we can just get you a boat out from the island, and then you can just come back later." And I thought, okay, how can I make it fun? How can I make it awesome? So because it's a kitesurfing community, I said, I have my kite with me. How about this? I go to the beach, I go kite surf, and then in a few hours I just come back and you don't have to worry about the boat. She's like, okay, sounds good. So I go to the beach, and get my out, and then I see Richard Branson out there, with literally just preparing to go kite surfing himself, and there's another like world champion in kite surfing as well. And it's like, holy shit, this is awesome. So Richard Branson walks towards me. Yeah, I'm with my kite about to set off. And yeah, I just give him a hug, and and there was a very short conversation, just a couple sentences, and yeah, I go kite surfing. Richard Branson takes off kite surfing. We kite surf next to each other. That's kite surfing on the Necker Island. That qualifies.
That is amazing.
Oh, that's so good. That's such a, the beautiful part about that story. Obviously it's great. You went kite surfing with Richard Branson. And the fact that you wrote it down on a piece of paper a year before, and then it happened. But the beautiful part is everything in between. All the stuff that you did in between, you didn't exactly reverse engineer how you're going to get to Necker Island and like go kite surfing with Richard Branson. But throughout the entire way, like you were mission oriented, and you knew that this is something that you wanted to do, and you just followed opportunities and serendipity along the way, and then just like hustled your way there.
Totally.
It's just incredible. That right there, that story just like aligns everything when it comes to entrepreneurship or like designing a life or whatever it might be, right? It doesn't have to be a perfect way to get there. Like you stumbled and fumbled quite a bit. Got kicked out. And then finally,
absolutely.
Okay, I'm just gonna go kite surfing, and then boom, there's Richard Branson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's just practicing the value of courage, of like just going after what you want out of life, and no putting excuses on hold, or just going despite the the excuses, the fears. I actually tattooed a word courage on my wrist. I didn't even know that I would get a tattoo ever, and then that word resonated with me so much that I realized I never want to forget it. This is one of the values that is so close to my heart, that I want to go despite the fear. I want to take action despite the fear. The interesting thing with Necker Island story. So once you're in a community, once you know some people, that's it. You're part of the thing. So I came back next year, and then we ended up doing even a much more fun experience. We rented 5 catamarans, and it was just amazing. It was just amazing. And then I got to actually meet Richard Branson once again. But during that second time when I got to meet him, I didn't feel like I actually had anything to say. I was like, okay, it's like I've read all of your books. I know quite a bit about you. I don't have a specific question I want to ask you, and it just felt like. I just felt at peace. No, I just felt kind of at peace. I just felt like I didn't need to meet anybody or do any particular thing, anymore. And that was a cool moment. That was a cool moment because that was, I was probably 21 years old. I realized that I don't need to meet anybody to feel successful or, to accomplish anything. The only thing that I need to do is I need to apply the information that's out there in the world and that I learned from that person, from the books that he'll deliberately put out so that people can learn from them. I just need to put those things in practice, and that's it. The best advice, the best advice is already there, right?
Totally.
And that was a bigger impact for me.
That's awesome. So for you then, what's the next mission? What's the next line item that you're going after?
That's a phenomenal question. I've tried a startup concept earlier. I don't think I'm going to pursue it any longer. I'm going to keep dabbling, keep experimenting, launching new things, and see kind of what resonates for the most part. And yeah, I guess we'll see. It's hard to say. It's also difficult for my generation, for millennials, to commit to one thing, because we are the group of people that has all the information in front of us, has so many opportunities in front of us, and choosing something makes you automatically say no to everything else. And it's so difficult right now to commit, to build a skill, to build a relationship, to say no to everybody else, to everything else, and to say, hey, this is what I want to go for. So, and for me, it's been quite complicated, and the most fulfilling things in life come from commitment, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't need to be a commitment even for a lifetime. You can just commit to a project for a year, or you can commit to a person, for a period of time, and then you get to reevaluate. It's for example, in relationships, I get to say, hey, let's try it out. Let's see what happens. Let's see if we like each other. It's like an experiment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then from there you can talk again and see what's up. So, but having commitment automatically reduces your cognitive load, because you no longer have to evaluate every decision. It's already made for months or years to come.
That makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I've never heard it articulated that way, but I'm gonna use that one for sure. Oh, I was gonna say. So your website said one of your missions was to transform education. Is that still something that you're focused on?
Yes, I believe education is really important, and I've been reading a lot about education and how people learn and how people act based on what they know. And I realized that it's not access to information that is limiting people. It is people's culture and their belief systems. By culture, if we look, for example, at the initiative of Bill Gates buying a fuckload of laptops and bringing those to African countries, the effects were not the best. They were not the best, and I believe that they scrapped the initiative. They thought, okay, if these guys have access to computers, they will all of a sudden transform the entire continent. That didn't seem to pan out the way they wanted it to. The thing is, people never had a culture for personal growth, for development. They do not associate information with better livelihoods, with more prosperity. And I believe changing culture is the most important thing that we can do, because again, a person in the Maasai tribe in Kenya, they already have smartphones that cost $40, $50. Many of them, they have internet. They might not even have places to charge the phone, but they have access to internet, and there are creative ways to charge the phones as well. I think working with the local leaders and people who are respected in those countries and educating them on why education is something that can massively improve people's lives is probably way more important. So that was the realization I had. And another thing is, I started a company that focuses on digital education in Latin America, and we sold online courses. We did conferences. We had a lot of free material online. The thing is, most people did not put the knowledge to practice, did not take action. And personal development information is consumed like Netflix. People binge watch it, nothing changes. They feel more accomplished. Oh, if I read a book, it's an amazing thing. People have these goals: read 100 books or read one book a week. And after you read a book, it's like holy shit, yeah, I'm so cool. I'm into personal development. I learned something new. Does nothing. Knowledge without application of knowledge is meaningless. It's pointless. There's literally does nothing. Another thing about personal development industry and what it does, it just says, hey, here's a new thing. You learn another thing, new video, new webinar, new whatever. A lot of people I know that are very successful, they love personal development, but they're super selective in terms of what they consume. And once they consume the information, they put in practice. So they actually do not necessarily read as much of the personal development stuff. They're like a lot more strategic, and they make sure that information gets practiced.
That's really good advice.
Totally. You get stuck in a hole.
Oh yeah, I find myself there a lot.
That's why experimentation is super awesome. So I have a few experiments that I want to share with you that I've done, and maybe if you guys want, we can figure out some of the experiments that you guys can try out as well in your life and see how that turns out. So right now, a week ago, I bought a marathon ticket. I love committing also for my experiences where there's like an end date and I cannot flake. So there's a very specific outcome. A week ago, I bought a marathon ticket, and the marathon was 3 weeks from when I bought the ticket. So I have 2 more weeks to prepare for the marathon.
Oh my gosh.
I did the same thing a year ago. I had 4 weeks to prepare for the marathon as well. So yeah, I like seeing, okay, can we do it? And it's kind of impossible to fail in a lot of those things. It's like, if you put your best effort, it's not a failure. It's a success in so many ways. Yeah. So I did that. I lived around the world and saw which place I like the most and how I feel in different places. When I was living in Kiev, I went to an acting school. So I did actors classes intensively for 1 month. And that was really cool. This was really awesome. And this is something I'd like to pursue in the future as well. I tried a carnivore diet, eating only meat. It was brutal. This is the only... Go ahead.
I've heard it's not recommended.
This was the only experiment that I didn't pull through with. I did 3 weeks out of 4. I was like... And my experiment actually... So here's the important thing. With my experiment, I tried to have an objective. For carnivore diet, my objective was to see if I'm going to feel better eating only meat. Mm-hmm. I realized the first week, that I'm not going to feel any better, but I feel like still doing the experiment. maybe something is going to change. So in a way, it was like a successful experiment, but 30 days was a little too much. And I was in Argentina. I was eating great steaks. Mm-hmm. Still, you start hating steaks at some point.
Oh, I bet.
I had like 5 steaks a day.
Oof. That sounds painful.
It is pretty painful.
I mean, like what's his
Michaela
name?
Peterson.
Yeah.
But that's the thing though, is everyone's biology is so specific, and like to say one diet is going to cure an ailment is, I think, very misleading. So maybe it works for her, but it could also be because she was on only meat that she probably cut out a bunch of things that she shouldn't have been eating. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily like cause-effect relationship with the meat.
Right. And they experimented first. Like they experimented with a lot of different diets.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, she has a messed up microbiome to begin with. And my friends, they from lifestyle engineering community, they also have done this, and this was really helpful. Essentially, you do this to kind of like renew your microbiome as well. And I think you can reintroduce other foods. It's one of the elimination diets that can work. With dieting, I experimented quite a bit as well. I've tried a ketogenic diet. I've tried pescatarian, vegetarian, vegan. And the goal was to figure out what I'm going to feel the most energetic on. Mm-hmm. So with nutrition, with nutrition. I'm feeling solid. I know what's going to work for me. And one of the things I optimize in life is like, I want to feel the best. Before I wanted to have, to collect experiences, or, to acquire certain things, or to build $1 billion startup. Right now, the thing I am optimizing for, like, I want to feel amazing. Like, I want to wake up thrilled. I want to feel energetic. I never want to feel tired. And I mean, I'm 25 years old, but I still feel sometimes that, like, okay, the age is the age is showing me glimpses of what may happen later on. And that was a scary thing. That was a scary thing for me.
Did you do the Flow Research Collective stuff with Rindars?
That's right. Yeah.
I started taking it, it was last year, right when they first started it. It was like fairly early last year. And so we found out she was pregnant, and like me, as like the way I am is like, I'm like always like head forward on a bunch of like different projects, or on one big project or something. But I optimize my time for that project. Right. And I'm kind of a workaholic a little bit. I've always have been. Like, I just do a lot of work. And at the time too, we were traveling like crazy for her work. And we found out she was pregnant, and I was like, holy shit, I'm going to need to like figure out how to focus 10 times better, how to optimize my schedule 10 times better, because how am I going to be able to put the time and energy I put into my work or whatever projects I'm working on, if when I know that I want to be a good father, I want to be a good husband. So like, I searched for, and I follow a bunch of stuff on Instagram, and I saw it, and I'm like, man, this seems like it's a perfect option to maximize my schedule, to maximize the energy and the output that I have. And so then I took it, and it was great. Like the positive psychology stuff, everything with the hedonic calendar and recovery and everything that was in there. I applied it, I used it, and it was fantastic. We had our son in December. And if I didn't develop the habits and routines that I did from that program, I think we would have had a very different experience, because my meditation was on point, hydration, all that stuff was on point throughout, like being extremely sleep deprived from having a child. And without, I think, like the sleep deprivation and the energy output that was going into trying to be a good husband, be a good father and everything, I was also able to do other things and do work. And like, I was able to maintain a good like homeostasis balance in life. And it came out like,
so what was the most surprising thing that you got out of the program? Well, was it the fact that you were sleep deprived, or because a lot of the times who are systemically sleep deprived, they do not know?
Oh yeah.
So I read a book called Why We Sleep a while ago. And that book opened my eyes up to sleep a lot and how I don't do it very well. And for a while, I got into a good habit of good sleep. But from the Zero to Dangerous program, the biggest thing, the positive psychology stuff was incredible. I was already in a pretty good meditation program. But I would say the biggest thing was the recovery. And they focused a lot on recovery. And recovery isn't something you think about, right? Burnout is just a part of life as an entrepreneur. It just is. You're going to eventually feel like garbage.
Do you have a recovery protocol?
I do. Yeah. I do a lot of mobility exercises and, working out, and I wish my weekends, I need to develop a more hedonic calendar, but yeah, I'm pretty good at, I'll leave her and the baby for like 2 hours on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday, and do a 45-minute like yoga and like a good mobility stretch, and then a 45-minute meditation. That's kind of like my good weekend recharge. And then as far as like daily recovery, man, I got good at it and then bad at it and then good at it and then bad at it. Like daily recovery is one of those things where the routine needs to really kick in. And it's taken us, so our son's 10 months old now, and to develop, it's an ebb and flow of figuring out schedules and routines. But I think we're starting to get in a good rhythm. And then once obviously family is step one for us. And we want to make sure that we're doing a really good job for him.
Priority one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then from there, and we do focus on ourselves. We focus on independent stuff and everything like that. But it just takes time, work those things into the calendar. And they work out. And we've been able to engineer a pretty cool life right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the recovery protocols are there. I think they could be better.
Are you both following the program, or
she didn't take the program, but she heard me talk about it enough where she basically took the program.
I wonder how you guys sync your time together, and uncertainty as well that comes from having a child. How do you guys coordinate your schedules where you get the most out of life together?
Oh man, that's a good question.
We talk all the time. Like, we work from home, both of us.
Mm-hmm.
So we're constantly talking and communicating
and checking in
and like saying, okay, like reviewing our schedules. Like on Fridays, we'll look down and look at our schedules for the following week. And then in the morning, first thing, we'll talk about our schedules.
And we have like a very open line of communication to where like no one takes anything personal. So like I've straight told him before, like if you ever think like I'm slacking as a mom or being a bad mom, say like you're being a bad mom. And like it goes the same with like, husband and wife duties. So like neither of us is afraid to call the other person out. Like if he has ADD and he doesn't take medication. Like he meditates as a main form of dealing with it. But sometimes when his meditation is off, he tends to not be as present. So I'll tell him all the time, I'll be like, hey, I need you to like focus. Like this is bothering me. This is a part where I feel like you could step it up. And instead of like getting defensive, he take steps to improve in those areas. So I think that's also really important when it comes to a relationship, is being able to have that brutal honesty, so that you can, be the best version of yourself for your family.
Yeah, I love what you mentioned, communication. And I think open communication comes from creating a space that is safe for people to express themselves. And that takes quite a bit of work, right? For me, I'm not an expert on relationships by any means, but I recently had challenges where I didn't feel like the other person was communicating what's going through her mind and, how she feels about things. And we would talk about doing things together. We would discuss just general topics. But because I didn't know how her mechanism, how her algorithm works, I just get the output, then I really had a tough time connecting.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes a ton of sense. And for us, it was just a lot of trial and error. And I think he brought to light where a lot of people maybe can't have that communication, or why some people might not be as honest as you would like them to be in a relationship. Because he's like, well, if you want me to be honest, like I can't tell you something and then you freak out and start yelling at me, because then I'm going to want to avoid that situation. I'm not going to express something that I know is going to make you angry, cause a fight, and not be productive in the end. And I was like, oh shit, okay, so I have to take accountability here too. So I'm allowed to obviously have whatever feelings in reaction to if he does something wrong, but I have to express that in a healthy way. So if every time he does something wrong, I yell at him, I belittle him, and I make it all about him, then he's not going to come to me with any issues. So it's allowing him to mess up, and then him allowing me to mess up, and then how do we fix that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So in friendships in particular, what I really strongly believe in educating people how you want to be treated, because people are going to treat you the way they think, that you want to be treated, or that you'll allow them to, exactly. So I'm wondering if you guys take any steps to educate each other. I guess you've been in a relationship for a while, and you know how you work, but what steps did you guys take before, or what steps are you taking right now in order to get clarity as for, hey, when I work, for example, I don't want to be touched. When you see the headphones, nada, don't talk to me. Or it's just one of those things that I train my friends. This is like a small thing, but it improves relationships massively because there are no annoying factors, and people get to respect my way of being.
Yeah.
Do you guys have your ways?
I don't think we have any full-blown steps, but I will say that it's about being mindful, right? Like if something makes me feel a particular way, like when I'm working or something, and I need like a 90-minute gap where I can't be talked to or like I need that box to focus or something, and that box is getting like interrupted, you can be mindful enough to have the conversation saying, well, this isn't working for me. And then we'll talk about, well, what will work, and then go from there. Right. But I don't know if it's not like we have any steps to take.
No, I think
it's just mindfulness, really.
It's mindfulness. And again, it just goes back to communication. So it's like not being scared to say like, hey, I'm in a bad mood and I just like need an hour. You know what I mean? Like you take the baby and I'm just going to like go stretch or go for a walk or take a bath. So it's like, I need to feel like I can express whatever my needs are, and him not be like, oh, well, I'm busy too. And I have a list of things I want to do. And why do you get an hour and I don't get an hour? So I think it's also important not to like compare scores, right? So like there might be a week where maybe he needs more time to himself than I do, right? And like, it doesn't mean that in the next week I get more time if I don't need it. It's just, he needs what he needs, and I'm going to try my best to give it to him, and I need what I need, and he's going to do his best to give it to me. And it's not like keeping score. I think that's also really important. But just like being able to say what you need, and then your partner to step up when they need to step up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it's acting from the place of love for the other person and for yourself as well.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly it. And it's just knowing that you're each having just like a human experience, and you're just each figuring it out. And luckily you get to figure it out together.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's where it comes into like designing that experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where we're at now. Like we're at a really cool spot, like where we're really enjoying life and all that kinds of stuff. But now the next step is like 2020 was
design our 10-year plan. Yeah.
That's right. Let's do it. I really want us to try out building an experiment for you guys and see if there are any learnings that we can get out of it. Maybe is there an area of life that you'd like to improve or you'd like to optimize?
Oh man.
See, that's the problem with us. We're always optimizing and improving every area. It never ends. So, man, I wish I would say more travel, but like with COVID, it's kind of like
that's not possible right now.
Travel can be broken down. Like travel is probably like more feeling adventurous or having more new things, new experiences, right? Mm-hmm. So if you want, we can look into travel, because travel is just one outlet of getting the feeling.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, we traveled all week. We were gone in 2018. We were traveling
every month,
2 weeks out of the month.
Yeah.
Every month. And then 2019, it kind of came to a halt. She got pregnant. And then now it's like, okay. But I think that living life without the we can't mentality because we have a kid, like your parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We traveled everywhere.
Right. The uncertainty doesn't matter. We just want to do it. So to live life without those boundaries that most people like kind of construct for themselves, I think would be really fun. Goal.
Well, it seems like you guys are already doing it, which is beautiful. Yeah, traveling with kids, I think. So on my podcast, I interviewed an entrepreneur. He started 7, 10, 8 figure, 9 figure businesses, and and what he did is he took his kids to travel with him, and they're homeschooled or they're schooled digitally, and they were just experiencing life, living in Europe, living in Barcelona, living all over the place. And there's always a way to do something, and he found that way. And it's not necessarily super sophisticated. You can look up on the internet like how other people do it. But with kids in particular, I think nobody should look at having children as something that limits the expression of what they want to do with their lives, because there's certain way. And what my parents did with me, that just turned me into a better person, I believe. And I probably would be somewhere in Russia right now if they didn't do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I totally agree. I think there's, much like the way that you got to Necker Island, right? There's a vision of the way that we travel and how we travel and where we go and why we do it. And there's where we are now. And I think there's a creative kind of mission forward way that we can create it. We just got to develop that clarity. And I think that's where we're at right now, is like really like communicating and developing the clarity of exactly what that is.
Yeah. So A travel, it feels like you guys already love doing travel. So doing an experiment in travel is not something that that's going to bring you necessarily new insights. Maybe engineering or building a plan to get more travel, that can be something. But is there anything that you guys would like to learn more about yourselves, or I guess discover?
Oh man, I feel underprepared for that question.
Yeah.
So I guess we're trying to find like maybe like weak points essentially, right? Like those are like the best experiments, or am I off?
They don't have to be weak points. There should be just things that maybe you've been putting off for a while, or maybe the things that are your big desires, the goals that you've created for yourself, but you've never taken steps to see if you actually like it, or if you've never taken the first steps, and if you believe that you really want this out of life, those could be like really fun experiments.
Oh man. So for me, meditation is something that I know I should be doing, and I'm very, very inconsistent. Like I'll go on a streak where I'll go like, a week in a row, like 7 days in a row, and I meditate, and then I won't meditate for another 6 months. So for me, like I would love to have a consistent meditation practice, like every single day, do something. I just always make an excuse as to why that doesn't happen. So that's one. Another one that I wanted to do, like going back to like diet, like I've always wanted to try the blood type diet, because to me that's so interesting, like the theory behind it. But again, I've been avoiding. Oh yeah, it sucks because so we both have like what's considered the newest blood type, which means that you're kind of like the weakest when it comes to your immune system and like what you can kind of handle. So it's the most limited diet. So I'm like, oh, I also don't want to get rid of all of the meats, because that would suck to me. Like I don't want to just eat fish and tofu. Like that's boring. But I do want to see it and just like see if I feel better. So like that and meditation, because I just want to feel more energized. I think since having the baby, I'm just like constantly tired. So I'm like fluctuating between like undercaffeinated and overcaffeinated, and I just want to be at like an energetic level without a stimulus. So that's a goal. Mm-hmm.
Those would be fun experiments. I've done an experiment with 30 days of YouTube. Essentially, I would create one YouTube video a day.
Oh, wow.
And I've tried a version of it where I would do 15 videos in 30 days. The 15 videos in 30 days was an experiment that failed. I did like 4, and because I need to do them like every other day, or I get to do them whenever, and just like in the 30 days it has to happen. For me, there wasn't this practice where I needed to do something by the end of the day. And when I did the one video a day experiment, that was amazing. That was amazing because there was this consistency, discipline, kind of new habits. And there were moments when it was 2 a.m. and I still didn't have a video, and I couldn't go to sleep. So I had to pull up my camera, and it's like, fuck, what topic do I know really well about that I don't need to research for? And that was my experiment. And then that was a skill that I acquired through the experiment. So Candice, maybe would you like to try the diet experiment or the meditation experiment for 30 days?
Ooh, which one should I do? Which one? I'll let you pick. Meditation?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do the meditation. I'm already so nervous.
I'll join you.
Stellar. Hell yeah. Do you guys have a time that you want to meditate?
I would say like minimum of 10 minutes for me. So I have an app that I really like. Again, I've only used it like maybe 10 times or 12 times because again, like consistency is my flaw. It's the Waking Up app with Sam Harris, and it's like the best one I've ever used. Like you have to pay for it, but anyone who's looking for a great app, like that's one I recommend.
So
I love that.
30-day challenge, 10 minutes a day.
At least 10 minutes.
Is there like a certain time we're supposed to
Does it have to be done like before a certain time of the day, or like as long as it's done before bed?
What usually works the best is putting it on your schedule or putting it within your routine that you do anyways. What I like doing as well is I like creating like 30 boxes that I check off because that makes it very visual. Something that worked really well. It's a very easy experiment to do, right? It's super easy, super straightforward. You have the app. I think in designing experiments that work, having clarity is probably the most important thing. So if you know which app you're going to be using, I'm not sure how the Sam Harris's app looks like, because if there is like one same meditation, you might get bored and then you might not look forward to doing that. So make sure that there's enough.
Yeah, it's a different one every day.
Yeah. And they even have a 28-day introductory course that you can do. 28-day introductory course, 8:30 every morning.
Okay.
It's that easy. Yeah. And you guys can have accountability as well.
Yeah. Let's see how many people can do it with us.
Yeah.
Hit her up on her social.
Yeah, and we'll check in.
Crew.
See much. I honestly think like anyone who does this, even if it's just us, I think we're gonna both be a lot happier for it. Yeah, I need something to clear the chaos in my head.
Yep. I think we're running out of time here, though. We're at was it? Yeah. 12:35.
Yeah, I gotta go feed a baby. Exciting parental duties. But yeah, before we take off, Renat, do you want to tell everyone where they can find you? Like your socials, your website, anything you're working on?
Absolutely. Guys, I had an amazing time with you. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. Fun experiment. I'm really excited for you guys also to try something new. And hopefully once you try this meditation experience, you get to try other experiments on your lives and see what you can learn from yourself and see how you can improve your life proactively.
Like you said, it's all about the commitment though, right? Like don't flake it. Don't, right? It's just commit. 30 days, whatever it is, right?
And that's the beautiful thing about doing experiments. When you have 30 days, that creates kind of a boundary. You know, all you can do is you can hate 30 days. That's it. You know, if you don't like it, just keep doing it. You will hate 30 days, and you'll say by the end of the experiment, I did not like it. This is not something for me. But because a lot of the times in the beginning, you have to break through a wall in order to start seeing the positive results, and people oftentimes that's where they give up.
Right. Perfect.
About information on what I'm working on, you can check out lifestyle.engineering. I'm working on the book right now. We have a podcast episode with Candace as well. You can check it out too. It was super fun. And yeah, feel free to drop me an email at renat@gabitov.com. Deliberately off social media.
Yeah. I got to do that.
Old school email.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. Dude, this has been awesome.
Yeah, great.
Super interesting
conversation.
Yeah, great conversation. We're so grateful to have you for the hour and a half that we had you. Yeah.
Awesome stuff.
I feel the same way. Thank you guys. Much appreciated.
All right. Have a good one. That's it for this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have the time, please rate and review, and you can always hit subscribe to stay up to date with our latest episodes. I hope to have you back.